Jai Baba, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Hamirpur Tales Hour. I'm going to be passing the baton to dear Betty in just a moment, as we're going to be today focusing on Keshav Narayan Nigam. And Keshav was the primary worker for Baba in Hamirpur. And this work started prior to Baba's first darshan tour. He arrived in Hamirpur November 18th of 1952. And so we're going to be focusing on Keshav. Richard met Keshava, Richard Leveton, who was with us, and then I'll share my experiences in being with Keshav there in Hamirpur. So, Betty, I pass the baton to you and invite you to introduce Richard.
Jai Baba, folks. Jai Baba, Richard. I just hope that you can kind of convey your memories and feelings of that time, how you met Keshava Nigam and Mr. Nigam. I don't know, was it proper to call him Mr.? Yeah, if you would just kind of go, and then there may be questions from the audience, which I think we'll wait till Richard finishes his his recollections, and then if you have questions, please raise your hands, and then we'll go to Alan, who had a later meeting with him. All right, so Richard,
hello.
Share your experiences.
Hi, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Leveton, and about a month ago, I was in this exact spot when Alan Ray Powell and I had a chat about, but mostly my experiences in Hamirpur in 1972. I'm not going to go over that entire 10, 15, 20 minutes that I was talking, but to give some highlights, I was unbelievably fortunate enough as a young person in body and in perspective to find myself in India in 1972. And through just about an unknown serendipity, I found myself being invited to go to Hamirpur district with a group of 10 or 11 other Westerners, and we were being accompanied by Pukar and Panchal, both of whom had certainly met Baba, I believe in 1952 and possibly even before that. Our trip had some extraordinary experiences involved. I think we were gone at least 2 weeks. And among the many, many, many highlights, I had the opportunity to meet Keshav Nigam, which I have some fond memories and feel again extremely fortunate to have met him. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. In 1972, I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
I want to ask you now. I'm just setting the scene. At the time, were you then staying, or you were a Baba lover by then, and were you staying in? Was it the hotels at that time, and you were there at Mehrabad?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. As a 23-year-old, for some act of good fortune, grace, you name it, I found myself in India wanting to visit Mehrabad and Merazad as a Baba lover, or at least as a Baba devotee. And while at Lower Mehrabad, just walking around, taking in the scenery, someone who I do not even recall at this time, I happened to be passing by. They were going one way, I was going the other. They stopped and said, "Hello, I'm so-and-so. Are you interested in going to Hamirpur?" And I said, "Sure." I had heard of Hamirpur by then, but I really did not know much about it. Probably had never, I think I may have heard of Pukar. I'm not sure I had heard of Keshav Nigam by then. And as it turned out, the timing of my trip was literally exactly the right timing for me to, number one, say yes to go on the trip. And within 2 or 3 days, I, along with 10 or 11 other Westerners and Pukar and Panchal, found ourselves leaving Ahmednagar, um, going first to what was known as Bombay then, and now Mumbai, and from Mumbai, an overnight train past Delhi north into Hamirpur district. While I was in Ahmednagar, I stayed at the Dowlat Lodge. There certainly was no pilgrim center at that time. And again, fortunately, I was young, and pretty much every day that I wanted to, I was able to ride a bicycle either to Mehrabad or Merazad on the days and times that those places were available for pilgrims. Um, I could go on and on about that part of the trip, but I think that unless you have another question, I'd like to drift back to Hamirpur and perhaps Keshav Nigam. Did you have any other question? Oh, okay. So we found ourselves in Bombay at that time, and the 12 of us plus Pukar and Panchal, because of Pukar's planning, which was extraordinarily meticulous, we were invited to stay at the place, I believe it was called Ashiana, which was the home or the apartment of Narayan and Arnavaz Dadachanji. Fortunately, we were young, and 6 or 7 of us were sleeping on the floor and in whatever room we happened to find ourselves in, feeling unbelievably gifted. Here we were in an apartment that Meher Baba had visited countless times and stayed with the Dadachanjis when he was in Mumbai. From there, after a lovely overnight stay, we found ourselves with Pukar's help on an overnight train, again going from Mumbai north past Delhi, eventually to find ourselves in Hamirpur district. A long and grueling trip if anybody's ever taken it. We took it third class, which was a whole other story, but quite a memory. I didn't meet Pukar for 3 or 4 days after we had made it to Hamirpur district. By that time, Pukar was old and very fragile. And I say that with the most respect and love that I can offer. As many people probably know, he had already been in one of at least the early stages and maybe even a later stage of Parkinson's, where he.
Excuse me,
Sure.
you're talking about Keshev, not Pukar.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you for saying that. Yes, we're talking about Keshav Nigam now, not Pukar, who was with us, but I'm speaking about Keshav. Thank you. So Keshav, again, an extraordinary soul, and I'm sure we can read, or a couple of us have been reading on the Wednesday meetings here, a book about his early life and his later life with Baba. By the time that I met him in 1972, he was an old, fragile man. His mind was working, with my limited understanding of what minds are supposed to be working like at that age. In my opinion, his mind was working perfectly well. He spoke probably better English than I did, and yet his body was fragile. And an interesting thing among many things that I found about Keshav was he was much more interested in discussing and talking with us Westerners about ourselves rather than about him. So I really can't, 50 years later, convey too much information about amazing things that Keshav told us about this part of his life or his time with Baba in 1952. I'm sure he may have talked a little bit about all that, but he was much more interested in why this group of mostly young Westerners were finding themselves in this backwoods part of India visiting him rather than being in Mehrabad and Merazad, literally in Meher Baba's presence at his samadhi. He was fascinated by our different stories, mine certainly was, gee, I just got tapped on the shoulder when I was walking through Maribot and asked if I want to go. That's the extent of my story. I was a Baba lover certainly before that, but I had no inkling I was going to be going to Hamirpur when I did, and I'm certainly very grateful that I had the opportunity to go. Again, in terms of discussions with Keshav, they were that there was nothing, what would be the right word? There was nothing spiritually amazing about his words. They were mostly words in English saying, how you doing? Where are you from? What were you doing before you came? What do you plan to do when you go back? And why in the world are you up here rather than in Maribot? Which again, it was just that's about the best way that I can explain much of my talk with him. I think his presence was more important than the words he used or that we used. He was an extremely, he was a very gifted man on many levels, most of which in my young in body and young in perspective look at Keshav as a 23-year-old, I had no idea who I was looking at. I certainly wouldn't want to compare him to this Mandali member or that Mandali member or anyone for that matter, other than to say I felt very fortunate to be in his presence. Any thoughts or questions so far? Okay, I have
one question. Yeah. Did you have any idea of how important he was to Baba and to the whole Hamirpur, district? He was no.
when I went, the short answer is no.
Yeah.
Again, as a 23-year-old, I first heard of Meher Baba in 1969. And as you and I and probably the others who are watching right now know, in the early 1970s, there were so few books. There were no films unless you went to the center to see Baba. There were a couple of pictures here and there. The amount of information about the lives of Meher Baba and his close Mandali certainly was out there in the books that were available. But as a young person, having read hopefully some of the discourses, some of God Speaks, some of this, reading a little bit about some of the Mandali and Mera, I think I had heard of Pukar, but I had not even heard of Keshav. And just on a whim was in a place of serendipity that, sure, I'll go to Hamirpur, why not? So that's the simplest answer that I can give you. And it's not very spiritual. It just, I was in the right place at the right time, I think. Yeah. Fortunately, as I mentioned a month or so ago in speaking with Alan Ray, after leaving India, I had the, again, very good fortune of having some correspondence with Keshav through old-fashioned snail mail letters and aerograms that, you write one from America and he receives it 10 or 12 days later, and he sends one out and you receive it 10 or 12 days later, so that by the time you write and get something in return, just about a month has gone by. But that was extraordinary. I mean, many people who may eventually watch this who are 20-something or 30-something are thinking, what's all this about? I have no idea. But believe me, it was an interesting time to be alive, and certainly to have had the experience of receiving an aerogram from India in the US mail and sending out this strange looking thing that you're sending the other way and trying to figure out how much it's going to cost to send it overseas airmail. This was all just amazing as I think back 50 years ago. I did receive, as I said, 3 aerograms and 1 real letter through the next few years of communicating, corresponding with Keshav. I'd be happy to read some passages from 1 or 2 of them if time and interest is there, or unless anyone else has a question or has something else to say.
We'd love to hear
Yeah.
what Keshav has written to you.
Sure.
Anything you can add in terms of your ongoing correspondence with him?
Sure. Well, first of all, this is, I hope that you can see, this is what an
Uh-huh.
aerogram looks like from back
Uh-huh.
then. And I I have three of those in front of me right now. A month or so ago, I read a little bit from the first aerogram that I received, and since it's fairly short, if you don't mind, I think I'd like to start with that one again, because I think it's very pertinent chronologically. Um, so this is an aerogram that I received on 14 February 1973. I had been in Hamirpur in November of 1972 and had left India in January of 1973 to make it back to America. And on 14 February, this is part of an aerogram that I received from Keshava. And it says, well, first of all, before I say what it says, the aerograms and the letter that I received are written in blue ink with a cursive American, well, I shouldn't say American English, English cursive in blue ink that is far better than I can write English cursive myself, being a native of the English language. In my opinion, and I can't say this is absolutely true, in my opinion, someone else wrote these aerograms and letters at Keshav's request. And at the very end of each of the letters, each of the aerograms and letter in red ink, in a printed type of block letters, either is K.N. Nigam or Keshav Nigam, which in my opinion suggests that Keshav had somebody write the letters in blue cursive English, and at the very end, he was showing that he was aware of it and wrote in red his own little addition of his name, just to let everyone know that he was writing it. So, with that said, the letter says, this is 14 February 1973. Beloved brother Richard, our hearty Jai Baba to you again and again. I had gone to Mehrabad with my family to attend the function of beloved Baba's fourth Amartithi, which was very fine and inspiring. Again, this is just after January 31st, 1973. Our caravan of 58 men and women, 2 infants, and 1 minor boy, traveled on a special bus to and from Mehrabad. So that's the writing from the February 1973 aerogram. The next one, unless someone has some questions, the next one I would like to read is from an aerogram dated 10 April 1976. This again is the aerogram. I hope that made it onto the screen. And it says, again, on 10 April 1976, our beloved brother Richard, a very loving Jai Baba to you all. I have received your very loving letter on 10 March 1976. It is for me filled with love to the brim, BRIM, a precious treasure for me. Thanks. And then he talks a little bit about my family. He talks about some other people who were on the trip to Hamirpur with me. And then he goes, I'll go back to reading a little bit more. All concerned who are in, kindly convey my loving greetings to all concerned who are in your contact. Your loving brother, Keshav. And a third aerogram. Fortunately, they've made it through 50 years. Some of them aren't in the best shape right now, but still have them and hope to have them quite a while longer. This aerogram is dated 23 October 1978. Our dear brother Richard, much love to you from Hamirpur. How happy do I feel in receiving your wonderful letter dated 26 September 1978. It was a quite unexpected love gift to me, for which I had been eagerly awaiting. Again, then he talks a little bit about family and others. And in closing, he says, in the end of your loving letter, I have happily read your Hindi writing, Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai, which brings me in a way closer to you. My hearty congratulations to you on it. Our loving Jai Baba, Keshava. And again, with regard to that Hindi writing of Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai, I had been learning a little bit of the Hindi and Marathi languages just because I could, and had enough in my pen when I wrote back just to see how all that went in writing in Hindi, Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai, which he apparently could read, which was quite amazing. So those are things from 3 aerograms, which I was happy to share. Again, does anyone have any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, hi, Ron.
Yeah. Well, you've told us your impressions, but I'm wondering, they differ in my impression in that my main impression from when I met Keshava the year following that you were with him in Hamirpur was that he was telling stories, and it just so happened that those stories have stuck with me for all those years, over 50 years. I keep telling them myself, and they've been very significant. Whether it was the way he told it, I don't know, but it was perfect timing for me to receive those stories. I'm wondering if he shared stories with you and the fellow pilgrims that when you attended that anniversary in Hamirpur.
Great question. Thank you. What month did you find yourself in 1973 in Hamirpur?
Same as you.
Same as
for the
me.
anniversary.
Okay, great.
November.
The only way that I can answer that, number one, is to plead that I'm old and I may not be able to remember a lot of stuff that happened 50 years ago. And you've got a lot more active brain cells than I do. Remember, number one. Number two.
I don't know about that.
Well, number two, there were 11 or 12 of us Westerners. And again, my impression is, from all that I can remember, Keshav's mood or his thoughts may have been in some other manner. He may have, I don't want to say he was overwhelmed by having 10 or 11 or 12 Westerners all there, but he may have just felt that in his mood, look at all these people. I want to find out about them rather than telling them what undoubtedly were extraordinary stories that you heard. And I may have heard a couple of stories which I just can't remember at this time. So therefore, what you're saying is probably true. I just can't remember. My focus 50 years later is that his interaction with us, or myself personally, was much more wanting to know about me and the rest of us rather than wanting to tell stories. That could have just been for those 2 weeks. That was what his interests were. A year later, his interests may have entirely changed again. That's the best.
It could also be 2 other factors. One is there were half as many of us. Yes. And so there was that. And then also we were spending a week with him, not in Hamirpur so much. We were there in Hamirpur for a couple of days, very busy time. I don't even know if I even met him then. But once we got to Mahewa village, it was a completely different atmosphere, much more quiet, and it was plenty of time to just hang out. So that may have been the reason why we were getting those stories from Keshava.
You were very
Ron, In 3 or 4 minutes, would you like to share one of those stories? It's
Yeah, I
okay
could
if you
do
don't.
that. I could do that. And because I don't, I think some of the, maybe a couple of the stories were about Keshav and his experiences, like the one on when he was on the railroad train going to Baba and all that. I think we've done that one. But there was one fellow, maybe I told this when I talked about it, but there was this one fellow there who was very quiet. I don't think he spoke English. So we didn't hear his story from him. Actually, Keshav introduced us to this rather small statured fellow who seemed very nervous to me. And he said he was going to tell his story and this anecdote. It's not his whole story or anything like that, but just this anecdote where he and some other Baba lovers were at Mehewa village, and they were at the place where Baba said that he was the avatar. He publicly proclaimed himself to be the avatar, and they were all there one night. I don't know, maybe repeating Baba's name or chanting or something, but there was a gathering there, and this guy got it in his mind that Baba should materialize or present himself physically to the people that were there, and in order to let Baba know that they were hankering for such a thing, that they should stick around and just repeat Baba's name. Now, there didn't seem to be a whole lot of interest in the way he presented it, and people started to leave until he was there alone. But he decided that he was going to remain doing that, and because he really thought it was a good idea, and maybe his ego, prompted him to stay doing that. And then suddenly he was just sitting cross-legged on the ground. Suddenly, a tiger approached him from the side and was right up in his face, and he was shocked. It was such a shocking experience. But before he could deal with what to do about it, I think he said another tiger or a lion came up on the other side, from the other side, and he had these two giant animals at his sides, and then a giant-sized cobra slithered up right in front of him and was face to face with this huge cobra, and then they all left. They departed. Maybe it was only a second or two that they were there, but he felt that, and then he looked out, and there was Baba, and the thing that Baba said to this guy, well, you wanted to see me, now you have, and that was
Thank
pretty
you, Ron.
much it.
Thank
That
you,
was
Ron. Thank you very much. So, Betty, would you like to reintroduce me?
Here's Alan, and he's just go for it, Alan. Tell us your story. Your time. 2 years.
Okay, so Keshav Narayan Nigam. In November of 73, I was getting ready to make my first pilgrimage to Maribot. And I'd had a bakery in Putney, Vermont called A Pinch of Love, a natural foods bakery. And someone who worked for me there, Howard Prusik, came from Vermont, and he had made a couple of pints of maple syrup, which he gave me, and he said, take these to two holy ones in India. So my first stop along the way was to 10R Boston Street in Somerville. And I spent that night with none other than Richard Leveton, who just happened to say to me, if you're still at Maribot at the time of Amrit Tithi, seek out Pukar and ask him if you can accompany him back to Hamirpur. So I had the blessed privilege to tour with Pukar, just the two of us, one-on-one, for almost 2 weeks. And I'm not sure at this moment that I had even heard of Keshava Narayan Nigam. It turns out that Pukar took me to Maristana before we went to the town of Hamirpur. And Maristana, Baba was there in November, toward the end of November in 52. And when he came back in 54 on February 10th, about 1:05 a.m., he declared Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. And about 10-15 minutes before then, he turned to Keshava, and I'm paraphrasing here. He said to Keshava, "You don't know how lucky you are." And Keshava was from the village of Mehawa, and his samadhi, Keshava's tomb shrine, is there in the village of Mehawa. So earlier today, thanks to Steve Lay up in Oregon, I went to trustmeher.org. And if you go to trustmeher.org and just type in Keshava Nigam in the search, you will find amazing information written about him. Mayor Chalisa, if you scroll, will be there too. And also actually Keshava giving an interview, I believe in 1975. So it's truly worth looking into. That's trustmeher.org. And it's available to you at your leisure and pleasure. So I've learned a few things being there in Mehawa and Maristana. And in this video that I saw today, I learned that Baba had a very special meeting in 1952. At a certain point in time, he went down below and around to the back of where the Japti hut is. And I'm going to divert for just a second. Keshava and Pukar had been to Merazad in October of 52 to plan the Darshan tour. And when Keshava returned to Hamirpur, he and other Baba workers had only 8 days to construct a Japti for Baba to stay in when he was at the village of Mehawa. And so this Baba went in the back, and he maintained, of course, Baba was silent, but he asked everyone else to maintain silence for 30 minutes. And when I was with Pukar's grandson, Mayor Samar Pete Nigam, in 2020, he took me to this particular site. There's a little stone there marking the spot. And what Mayor Samar Pete told me was that Baba had a gathering of the spiritual hierarchy at that place in that moment in November of 1952. So here we are. We've spent some quality time in Maristana, and you folks, Ron and Richard, got to experience being at an anniversary celebration of Baba's 52 Darshan tour. And I was there February 10th, 1974, also 20 years after the actual declaration. And unlike Richard, who was there for a massive celebration in '72, where he got to ride on an elephant, and there were parades around the town, and Richard has documented this on Hamirpur Tales in his interview previously. I was kind of surprised that the celebration of the Declaration, 20-year celebration, was very low key. We were there in the middle of the night. There were about 20, maybe 30 men in a pandal, and they were very, very softly taking Baba's name. So now we're going to go to the town of Hamirpur, and I was staying at Pukar's family residence, and Pukar says to me, this would be a good time to go and meet with Keshava, Narayan, Nigam. And so we go over, I don't know, it was with a 10, 15-minute walk. And we arrive, and Pukar drops me off. He didn't come in. And for 30 seconds, I what's going on here? How come there's no introduction? And after 30 seconds, I was already in with Keshava, so I forgot about it. And it wasn't until I read Keshava's biography, My Life Story with Avatar Mayor Baba, and that Diana led us through the reading of that book. We just recently completed that. It wasn't until I read this that I became aware of the fact that Pukar had a falling out with Keshava because of they were both involved together in politics, and Keshava backed away from that 100%. Pukar had a little more challenge with that. In any event, here I am at Keshava Nigam's, and he greets me, and there's a folding table. It was a big, big room I remember being in. And I seem to recall him being on one side of the table and me on the other. And as Richard said, he was very interested in me and my life. And I'm gonna read a little bit from my journal about that first meeting, that first time I met Keshava at his home. Today, I met Keshava Nigam. He is a very dear soul and extremely close to beloved Baba. He reminds me somewhat of Kaikobad, full of praise, blessings, and kind words in the name of Baba. Like Kaikobad, he suffered great physical hardship. In Keshava's case, that was Parkinson. And while experiencing the bliss of Baba's love continuously, Keshava is extremely sensitive of my feelings, even more so than I am myself. And talking in terms of vibrations and waves of love. Yet, unlike Kaikobad, he has an excellent command of English. In fact, Baba had asked him to translate Jean Adriel's Avatar, and later God Speaks into Hindi. Listening to him demands the utmost concentration, and when given fully, the beauty of his words are captured, even to be treasured. He is most generous and loving. I accompanied him on his daily walk and will do so while I remain here in Hamirpur. While walking the streets with him, it was clear to me that many people in the town not only have great respect for him, but perhaps even reverence. People walked alongside us, listening to him, telling me stories. He asked about my wife and wanted very much to have a picture of the two of us together. He also remembered our mine at Amartitha. He remembered it very well and said that through our silent motions, we were able to communicate more than all the thousands of words spoken that day. Wow. When he is touched by some little thought or action of mine, I can't help but to catch his feelings. For this man's love is truly contagious. Now, I was very naive on some level, and I really didn't know anything about Parkinson's. I saw him shaking, mostly in his right hand. Nonetheless, before we went on the walk, I asked him if he had any extra copies of Mare Chalisa. And he said, "Oh, my dear, I only have a few dozen copies left." And I said, "Well, do you think you can spare a copy or two?" And he said, "Well, you come back tomorrow and let me see what I can do." Then he said, "Is it possible when you come back tomorrow, could you write and bring with you something about your experience of being in Hamirpur? Write an article." And then we went on our walk. Now, we walked in the town of Hamirpur along the square. And think of a baseball diamond, if you will. You got first base, second base, third base, and home. So we start on our walk. And in between, after first base, in between second and third base, Keshava has to piddle. And you all know what piddling refers to. Keshava says, "I got to piddle." He hands me his staff, his cane. And it was electric. I got a shock from it. It was, wow. It was pretty amazing. Wow. So he's off to the side of the road, and that's the way we did it back then. We didn't need to necessarily to use a porta potty or bathroom. I just went to the side of the street, and we continue our walk. And in between second and third base, Keshava points to a man, looks like typical beggar, sitting on the side of the road. He says to me, "That man right there, not only is he a must, he's the charge man of the town of Hamirpur." So I probably had met Mohammed Must by this time, but was not aware of any other contact with the god intoxicated. So that was kind of a special moment. And we returned to Keshava's home, said our goodbyes, and arranged to come back the next day. So the next day, Keshava presents me with 4 copies of Mare Chalisa, and 2 of them are inscribed. And I just learned something from Richard earlier in his talk, because I didn't realize that the inscription that I have was not written by Keshava Narayan Nigam. It's in perfect cursive, and to the side, to the left, in red ink, there's a K. And that I've just learned that is Keshav's signature. Taking this a little one step further, Keshav thanks me. You're giving me all this, and you're thanking me. Why would you be thanking me? And he hands me a little folded slip of paper. And he says, when you return to Ahmednagar, please give this to Adi Kairan. He said, because of you, I was able to write a note. And it's the first time that I have written in a couple of years. So that's a very, very sweet remembrance that I have of my time with Kesha. And I was able to write that article for him, and it was a rare treat to be with him, and very, very grateful to Baba and to afford me that opportunity. Looking at a few notes here, see if there's I'm going to mention as the party was approaching Mehua Maristan, the evening of February 9th, 1954. Baba was keeping the entourage, the entire group, on edge. They had been in a town before Mehua, and because a young boy attempted to put his head on Baba's feet, Baba became very enraged, and he threatened to cancel the Darshan tour. And so that's where the story that been referred to elsewhere came into play, where Pukar was asked to fetch 14 boys of the age 14, so they could bow down to Baba, and that he could give each of them 14 rupees. And it seemed like that was not going to manifest perfectly, and Baba, of course, turned the key so that it did, and then the Darshan tour was on again. Now the villagers of Mehawan wanted to be there, but Baba had told Keshav expressly that only a few people were to be on the hill where the Japti is. And so they were observing from a distance several dozen of the villagers. And Baba noticed them, and they said to Keshav, what's with all these people there? And they said, well, Baba, you said that you didn't want them to be at the Darshan program outside the Japti. I told them that even a glimpse of you from the distance would be significant. And so in light of that, Baba invited more people to the hill. And of course, as you know, it's well documented in Lord Mayhair and elsewhere, they had quite a celebration that night. One of the Mandali let everyone know that according to the Parsi calendar, it was Baba's birthday. So there were bhajans and dancing and singing till about 4:30 a.m. So again, Keshav Nigam's hometown, Mela, his brother, Mukanla, an incredible story. He was the caretaker right from 1952 on, and or maybe in 54 he started that caretaking. After Baba healed him, helped him heal from these skin disease, and I was also blessed to meet Mukanwal there at the Japti in 74. So we don't have too much time left. Are there any questions out there?
I have something very quick to say. First of all, thank you for those stories. In terms of just talking specifically about you and Ron and myself, our stories of Hamirpur 50 years ago are very different, and which is great. And even in other people who I've spoken with in the last 50 years who had been to either Hamirpur with me or at other times, everybody's story is different, but everybody is amazed at Hamirpur. I mean, I could go on and on, but that's all I think I have time to say now.
Yes, we don't want to forget what Baba said. I left my heart in Hamirpur, and I was told that 25% of the total population of the district of Hamirpur, either in 1952 or in 1954, actually had Baba's physical darshan. Hearts were on fire, and they still are. They still are there. If you get to India, you get a chance. There'll be a Mela this year in Naranga, celebrating around November 26th, celebrating that time when Baba was there in Naranga for the first time. So I'd like to let everybody know that it turns out Gil Alvarado was there in 71, and I believe again in 75. And so Gil is going to be with us in the near future, and as well as David Miyake. Now, David didn't meet Pukar or Keshava in Hamirpur, as Pukar traveled around the country after the Maine Mela, down to Florida, Puerto Rico, over to the West Coast, to the Northwest, and then across the United States. He stopped in Chicago, and David Miyake has great stories about Pukar in Chicago, so that we have other tales to tell and to look forward to.
I think I could quickly show you the three the pictures of the book. Should we try to do that? We'd have to do it right now and real fast. Should we do it now? Yeah. Okay.
Go for it.
All right.
2 minutes.
I know. Let's see. Here we go. His first one. Okay, wish me luck. Okay, let's just try for it. Oh, let's see.
Next time.
Maybe next time. Yeah, let's see. Well, let's see. Here is, all right. This is the book, Keshava Narayan and Nigam's book. All right. This is his Mayor Chalisa, which is Baba, it's 40, what would you say, messages or?
Verses, and Baba would have Keshav anytime that Keshav was in Merazad or at Guru Prasad. Baba would have him recite the entire Mayor Chalisa in his presence. Baba loved it.
There's one more picture here is the it's inside Mayor Chalisa, is that right? The frontispiece sign, but or maybe not sign. That was the K. There's the K Alan was talking about. And then okay, and now we must depart because it's time for Archie. So
You never showed the pictures.
Avatar Mayor Baba Ki Jays.
We never
did-
saw the pictures, Betty.
oh my goodness, I'm sorry. All right, folks.
You just teased us.
I'm so sorry. Okay. Are you seeing this now? No.
No,
No. All right. This one. Oh my goodness.
Next
Share.
time.
it's a
All right. Next time, Richard. You were wise.
let's have our 3 Avatar Mayor Baba Ki. There we go. There's
Oh.
the cover of my life story with Avatar Mayor Baba.
And
And
here-
don't forget to go to trustmayhair.org and just log in Keshav Nigam in the search and
All right.
scroll. There's so much there.
Sorry.
So here we go.
Okay.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Sorry.
Thank you, Betty.